I have a ridiculous number of sketchbooks in my collection. This is just a small handful of them. I've got many more on the shelf behind me, and I've got a few in my backpack. I think I've got a couple sitting on my nightstand. They're kind of just littered throughout my house, and I did that on purpose because I want to be able to have access to my sketchbooks at all times. So why do I think that filling a sketchbook is good for you? In a world where everything is becoming so digitized and optimized and everything's so easy to access, if you have a thought, you can take a picture, you can type it out, you can even leave yourself a voice memo or make a video like this. I think there's something to be said about a tactile notebook that forces you to slow down. They say that if you want to remember something, you write it down, because there's something about the idea and nature of grabbing a pen and writing the thing out. It forces you to slow down. You remember the different letters you're writing. Buy milk after work, or whatever it is you're trying to remember. The tactile nature of it sticks with our brain. But on top of slowing us down in a world where things are going so fast, I think there's something to be said about the character of hand-drawn images and handwritten notes in a physical sketchbook. While I like to keep a lot of sketchbooks and notebooks and things for ideas and for thoughts, I also keep quite a few digital notes that I refer to. But there's something about the character of the line work in these physical notebooks where I find myself looking at these more than I do the mountains and terabytes of Google Docs that I have stored away, or the notes on my phone. I always enjoy the process of looking through my sketchbooks and notebooks, and I think it's because the line work and the quality of my line work and the quality of my letters from that specific day tell more of a story about how I was feeling, or the state of mind I was in, or if I took it to a coffee shop, if I spilled coffee or whatever I was eating for lunch onto the sketchbook. It just tells so much more of a story, and it just feels so much more human. And while I carry sketchbooks because I consider myself an artist, I like drawing regularly. I like the practice of trying to get better at drawing, whether I'm drawing from life, or if I see something that really catches my eye or inspires me, I'll make a sketch of it in one of my many sketchbooks. This practice isn't just for artists. I have a sketchbook here that is more handwritten notes, and I guess it's more of a journal than it is a sketchbook, but there are plenty of sketches inside of this book. But I took a Polaroid of my dog the day he got a haircut. That was March 28th of this year. And I managed to snap a picture of him, and I glued it into my sketchbook. And I think that the idea of just this being a physical Polaroid, like you can see, it's kind of peeling at the edges. The fact that this is in here and it's a physical photo, to me, makes it just a little bit more special than were it to be a photo on my phone, or a photo that I posted to Instagram or Facebook or wherever we like to share our pictures. So if you are an artist like myself, and you like the idea of drawing regularly or trying to improve at drawing, it makes sense for you to carry a sketchbook. But if you aren't an artist, and maybe you prefer to write, or maybe you prefer to take photographs and paste those into the book, obviously there's no rules, and I'm not the person to tell you whether or not those things are correct or incorrect. But again, the practice of placing things into a physical sketchbook, I believe, is very good for us as human beings. It's so easy to get sucked into this thing, and trust me, I'm trying to find ways to pull away from my phone and from my computer, and I think sketchbooks and notebooks are absolutely the way to do that. I also think it's good to leave behind some sort of an analog footprint in a very heavy digital world. I like the idea of my kids being able to look through my sketchbooks and know that, hey, my dad drew that, or maybe they want to get a tattoo of one of my drawings. Don't do that, but maybe they will. And the fact that it exists on paper, they can see it, they can know that I picked up a pen or a pencil or a marker that day and scribbled it out in one of my many messy sketchbooks. To me, it feels special. And yes, I'm absolutely romanticizing the idea of bound paper inside of a cover, in between two covers, but I think that's kind of the point. So filling a sketchbook is actually kind of a difficult task. At least I know it is for me. I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten a quarter of the way or maybe even halfway through a sketchbook and it's kind of devolved into just a note-taking device when I'm on the phone and scribbling out notes and phone numbers and things like that. And the sort of sacredness of the sketchbook goes out the window, and what I thought was going to be this beautiful showcase that Momo was gonna come knocking on my door asking if they could showcase it at one of their exhibits. It turns into a thing that I'd much rather use to start a fire in the backyard. But finishing a sketchbook doesn't have to be a daunting task. And I found that if you just take it day by day and page by page, it makes it much easier to fill the entirety of a sketchbook rather than thinking of it as this entire collection of beautiful things that it has to be. It's the individual pages of sometimes really nice, pleasant work or writing, and the next day being this sloppy sort of mess of something that you'd never share with anyone. All of those things kind of scrambled together in a single book, I think, are what makes it special. And I think for me, learning to embrace that within a book, sketchbook, journal, diary, whatever you want to call it, I think that's where I've really started to cherish these more and more. So if you're looking to try to fill a sketchbook or a journal, I would encourage you to find time that works for you. For me, it's in the morning when I'm sipping on my coffee. I just pull out a sketchbook and a pen, and whatever comes to mind, I'll sit and I'll doodle and I'll draw. And when my cup of coffee is gone, that's when I know it's time for me to close the sketchbook and get started on my day. I've also learned to lower my expectations when it comes to the pages in my sketchbook. If I open up to a blank page in my sketchbook and I tell myself, this is going to be a masterpiece, 10 times out of 10, that drawing, that page, it's not going to be a masterpiece. It's going to be something that I move on from and never look at again. But if I lower those stakes and I tell myself, I don't care if this page is good or bad, the practice of me putting pen to paper is what's important, I find that I'm freed a little bit of that sort of burden of having to make it good. And I say good because it's subjective. Just learning to say I'm going to draw, just learning to say that I'm going to practice this every single day is what's more important to me. Showing up and actually doing that kind of work has become more important to me than what the actual quality of the work is. Now, there's a time where I do want the quality of work to be better, but I'm finding that when I practice this daily, the idea of putting pen to paper regardless of the outcome, when it comes time to turn that switch on, whether for a client or even for myself, I find that I have a much easier time pulling the images from my head and putting them onto paper. And if you're like me and you're wondering, what do I draw in my sketchbook? I've found time to do it in the morning or maybe before bed or on my lunch break, and you open up your sketchbook and you've got your pencil in hand and you're like, well, okay, Felix, I got it open and I'm ready to draw, but what do I draw? I would suggest to keep it simple. Keep it very, very simple. If you're an artist looking to improve your craft, think about the things that you want to get better at. If you want to get better at drawing portraits, draw 100 portraits. Find pictures online of people. Draw your coworkers. Go out to a park and draw people as they walk by. Go to a coffee shop and draw people at the coffee shop. If you want to get better at drawing hands, hands are insanely tricky to draw. Practice drawing your hand. I like the idea of drawing 100 of something because it forces you to think about 100 of a thing you're going to do, and it's just getting those reps in. I've got multiple pages in my sketchbook where I've drawn 100 arms or 100 torsos or 100 faces, all in the pursuit of just trying to get a little bit better at drawing those things when it comes time for me to have to draw those things from memory. If improving anatomy or portraits isn't your thing, maybe pop art or TV shows are your thing. I mean, you can make fan art of your favorite TV show or your favorite movie. You can find your favorite characters and draw them in the sketchbook. Or if you have artists that you look up to, look at their work, dissect it, learn from it, draw their work, and figure out why they do specific things on the page, why they put shadows in specific places, the shapes that they like to use. You can learn a lot from just looking at someone else's art and drawing it and trying to figure out what they were doing and trying to get inside their head a little bit. When getting a brand new sketchbook, it's important to be realistic about the outcome of finishing an entire sketchbook. Again, I tricked myself sometimes into thinking that this new sketchbook that I order on Amazon or that I got from the bookstore, it's going to be incredible. And usually those are the sketchbooks that end up just falling by the wayside. So being realistic with your approach in keeping a sketchbook is going to be very, very important. Just use it as a tool to improve as an artist, as a writer, as someone who documents their day or photographs or whatever it is you plan on using it for. Just be realistic about the approach and be realistic about the fact that you're a human being. There are going to be days when you're going to sit down at that sketchbook and you're going to be all fired up and you may fill 2 or 3 pages. And there are going to be other days where you look at that sketchbook and it's going to feel like a burden. But I guarantee you, if you push through those specific days, you put pen to paper, you put something on the page, you're going to look back and you're going to remember those days probably more than the days when you felt fired up and you filled half of your sketchbook. I know for me, a big shift was just thinking about the fact that I get to draw in my sketchbooks. Time is generally a pretty valuable resource in my house, and so the idea that I do get 20 or 30 minutes in the morning, or sometimes an hour depending on how early I wake up, it's nice to be able to look at that page and say, I get to spend time here for however much time I've allotted, and this is what I get to do for myself right now. And so rather than thinking of this as a burden, thinking, oh my gosh, I have to fill a page today, telling myself that I get to has become sort of a big motivating factor and just a tiny mind shift that has helped immensely in the practice of filling a sketchbook. So what are the long-term benefits of a practice like this? I kind of went into some of them at the beginning of this video about the idea of your handwritten notes on a page. But let's say you find that you managed to fill an entire sketchbook, or 2, or 5, or 10, or you kept up with this practice for a year, or 5 years, or 10 years, which would be incredible. I'm personally on about 1.5 years of doing a daily sketchbook, and I can tell you that for me, the benefit is the archived history in my handwriting, in my line work. I can look back at a specific day and remember how I was feeling based solely off of how quickly I was rushing through the drawing or the writing, or how much time and care I took into a specific illustration. There's just a sort of extra sense that can be felt when you're looking through the pages of your own work. You know that it was your hand that was put to the page, and you put those things on that specific piece of paper, or multiple pages depending on how you were feeling that day. And while a digital archive is great at things like legibility, or even being able to find things quickly, there's a sense about being able to go through your own drawings and own writings and own thoughts when they were penned by you. The feeling of pen on paper leaves such a mark when you do it daily, and I'm talking, mentally and physically as well. But the individual pages that make up these sketchbooks, and then the multiple sketchbooks that you hopefully will fill over the years, tell such a bigger story about who you are and where you came from, and hopefully you're able to see a level of growth from the first sketchbook that you started to the last, whether that's 100 or 1,000 or however many you are able to fill in the number of years that you're willing to do this practice. I hope to fill 100,000 sketchbooks, and I feel like at the rate I'm going, I might get there with just how many I've purchased. There's so many sketchbooks in my house. And whether or not you choose to share the pages of your sketchbook with other people or not, it doesn't really matter, because it's the practice of putting those thoughts down onto paper that helps you to grow as a person. Again, whether you're drawing every single day or you're writing, I think practicing these analog things in a digital world is important for us as human beings.